Welcome to Rich Tribe. Ever feel like you're working harder than ever, but your bank account just isn't getting the memo? Well, today we're going to break down 5 of the biggest money mistakes that might be keeping you stuck. And more importantly, we'll talk about what you can do to finally break free. This quote from the Jerusalem Post really hits home for a lot of people. It just perfectly captures that feeling, right? You're up early, you're working hard, maybe you even have a side hustle going, but when you look at your finances, it feels like you're just treading water, not really getting anywhere. Exactly. It's like you're on a hamster wheel and it is so frustrating. But here's the key thing I want you to understand. It's almost never about being lazy. It's usually because most of us are making a few critical financial mistakes and we don't even realize we're making them. So let's dive right into the first one. Now, this first mistake isn't some bad spending habit or a get-rich-quick scheme you fell for. Nope. It's a complete misunderstanding of this powerful, invisible force that is constantly working against your money day in and day out. We've all heard the word inflation, but let's be real. It can feel like some abstract thing economists talk about, but it's actually super simple. It just means you're paying more for the exact same stuff. Think about it. That coffee that used to cost €2 a few years ago, now it's 3. The coffee didn't get any better, but the power of your euro definitely got worse. And this is the really sneaky part. Your bank account might say you have 10,000 euros, and hey, that number doesn't change. But what you can actually buy with that money, that shrinks every single year. Inflation is quietly and visibly eating away at your purchasing power. You are literally getting poorer without spending a single dime. And understanding that inflation is the enemy leads us directly into the second huge mistake. Because our natural reaction is to think, okay, I need to save my money. I need to keep it somewhere safe. But that very instinct, it's a trap. This is where we need to make a really critical distinction. Saving your money and protecting your money are two totally different things. Saving is passive. You're just parking your cash in a bank account. Protecting your money, on the other hand, is an active strategy to make sure it's growing faster than inflation is eating it. So you're probably thinking, wait a minute, are you telling me my savings account isn't actually safe? I thought the bank was the safest place for my money. And look, you're right, in one sense. It's safe from being lost or stolen. But it's completely exposed to that silent killer, inflation. Think about the numbers. If your savings account pays you 0.5% in interest, but inflation is at 3%, you are actively losing 2.5% of your wealth every single year. And this chart shows you why. A savings account gives you simple interest. That's that tiny little bar on the left. But investing? Investing lets you harness the incredible power of compound interest. That's where your money starts making its own money, creating that explosive exponential growth you see on the right. That is your number one weapon for beating inflation and actually building real wealth. Okay, so if just saving money isn't enough, the next logical thought for a lot of people is, well, I just need to earn more. I'll work harder, get a second job. But this is the third major trap that keeps so many people stuck. This quote from the Jerusalem Post is so powerful because it gets right to the heart of the problem. The old idea that just putting in more hours automatically leads to a better life, well, that part of the playbook is kind of outdated. So, what exactly is this broken structure they're talking about? It's the simple fact that for decades now, in a lot of fields, wages have barely moved, while the costs of everything else, housing, healthcare, education, have absolutely skyrocketed. You might get a 3% raise at work, but if your rent goes up 10%, you've actually gone backwards. You're trading more and more of your precious time for money that buys you less and less. So, the new path forward isn't just about earning more, it's about owning more. It's about acquiring assets that work for you. And look, this doesn't mean you have to be some kind of tycoon. It could be owning shares in great companies or a piece of real estate. It could even be owning skills that can scale beyond your time, like creating an online course or a digital product. It's about building systems that generate income even when you're not actively working. So we know we need to invest instead of just save, but even when we start, there's another huge hurdle to get over: our own psychology. It turns out, sometimes our own brains are hardwired to make the worst possible financial decisions. First up is this powerful mental glitch called loss aversion. Basically, the pain of losing 100 euros feels way worse than the pleasure of gaining that same 100 euros. A loss feels devastating, but a gain just feels kind of nice. So you might be thinking, okay, that's interesting, but how does that actually hurt me? Well, it's a huge problem for investors. When the stock market has a bad week and your portfolio goes down, that loss aversion kicks into high gear. The feeling of pain is so strong that your gut instinct screams, sell everything, make the pain stop. And in doing that, you often sell at the very bottom, locking in your losses right before the market turns around. And then there's its sneaky cousin, present bias. Our brains are designed to want stuff right now. If I asked you, would you rather have 50 euros today or 100 euros a year from now? For a lot of people, the pull of that instant 50 euros is almost irresistible. This is exactly why saving for a retirement that's 40 years away feels so incredibly difficult. We are literally fighting against our own brain's wiring. Now, just understanding that these biases exist is the first step to overcoming them. And speaking of taking valuable steps, if you're finding this explainer useful, take a quick second to subscribe to the Rich Drive channel, give this video a like, and maybe share it with someone who really needs to hear this. All right, let's get to our final and honestly, probably the most critical mistake of them all. It's the most common, the most relatable, and maybe the most destructive. Just waiting. Waiting for the perfect time to get started. This rule is maybe the single most important principle in building wealth. Why? Because the most powerful tool you have isn't how much money you invest, it's how much time you give that money to grow. Time is the rocket fuel for compound interest. But I hear this all the time. Does starting small really make a difference? I feel like I need thousands to even begin. Yes, it absolutely makes a difference, and you'd be surprised by how much. Just look at this simple example. A one-time investment of 1,000 euros with a modest 2% interest becomes more than 1,100 euros in just 5 years. Now, imagine adding to that every month for 20, 30, or 40 years. The numbers become truly staggering. The cost of waiting isn't just the money you didn't invest, it's the decades of future growth you just sacrificed. So to wrap this all up, these aren't just one-off mistakes. They're habits we have to consciously break. Stop ignoring inflation. Stop thinking a savings account is enough protection. Stop believing that just working more hours is the only way forward. Stop letting fear and impatience make your decisions for you. And please, most importantly, stop waiting for that perfect moment that is never, ever going to come. Let's end with this really powerful idea. We can't control inflation. That's just a fact of life. But we absolutely can control whether our wealth erodes away or if it grows. By understanding these principles, you get to move from being a victim of the system to being someone who knows how to make that system work for you. The goal here isn't to overwhelm you, it's to empower you. So I'll leave you with one final question. You don't have to fix everything all at once, but based on what you've learned today, what is one small, different action you are going to take this week to start building a stronger financial future?